Welcome to our channel, Psyverge. Have you ever found yourself in a discussion where even after saying everything you needed to, you walked away feeling like you lost? Have you ever felt that knot in your throat, as if every word spoken had pushed you further away from your own strength? Maybe you're surrounded by people who speak loudly, interrupt, mock, and dominate every room they enter with arrogance disguised as confidence. And maybe deep down, you've believed that staying silent was weakness. That not defending yourself meant surrender, that not reacting meant you were losing. But what if all of that was an illusion? What if I told you that the real power has never been in words, but in their absence? Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the most misquoted and misunderstood philosophers of all time, saw something in silence that most people miss. In a world obsessed with voice, performance, and persuasion, he saw silence as strategy. Nietzsche understood that the loudest person in the room is usually the weakest. Those who over-explain are often trying to convince themselves more than they're trying to convince you. And those who cannot stop speaking reveal not their power, but their insecurity. He believed that the more a person talks, the more they give away what drives them, their fears, their needs, their need for approval. Silence, then, becomes a filter. It's not emptiness, it's precision. When you say nothing, people project everything. They fill the silence with their assumptions. And when someone doesn't know what you're thinking, they begin to fear what you might be. Because unpredictability is power. Nietzsche wrote often about masks, about the idea that our public self is never the full truth. Silence, in a way, is the perfect mask. It makes people uncomfortable. It forces them to confront their own need to be seen, to be right, to dominate. The silent one becomes the mirror they can't escape. It's easy to think that power is about speaking louder, being more confident, having the last word. But Nietzsche would argue that those are performances. And performances are for the crowd, not for the strong, not for the free thinker. In fact, the moment you feel the urge to argue, pause. That impulse is often your ego begging for validation. And Nietzsche warned about the ego constantly seeking reassurance from the outside. He believed that the higher individual is one who walks alone, not out of bitterness, but out of inner abundance. They have no need to explain their worth. They simply embody it. When you walk into a room and say nothing, people notice. That absence of noise creates a vacuum. And people rush to fill it, with questions, with assumptions, with their own noise. In that chaos, you gain clarity. You can observe who needs to be heard and who needs to be obeyed. You see who is insecure and who is posturing. You gain power because you are not reacting. You are watching. This is what Nietzsche meant when he said, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded." Silence is a form of self-command. It means your behavior isn't dictated by others. You're not dancing to the rhythm of their words, but to your own stillness. Many people mistake this for weakness. They'll provoke you, try to corner you, demand that you speak. But that's only because they fear your stillness. They don't understand it. And what people don't understand, they try to destroy or control. If you react, they win. If you respond with silence, they unravel. In philosophical terms, Nietzsche rejected the herd mentality. He saw how societies train people to conform, to obey loud authority, to follow without question. Silence, especially in confrontation, is rebellion. It's stepping out of that system. You're no longer playing their game. When someone insults you, and you say nothing, you destroy their expectation. When someone tries to bait you into an argument, and you simply observe, you expose their weakness. When someone tries to dominate you with words, and you hold your posture without response, you reveal who is truly in control. Nietzsche's philosophy wasn't about appearing superior. It was about becoming stronger internally. He called it the path of the Übermensch, the higher individual who transcends ordinary morality, ordinary validation, and ordinary conflict, the one who rises above noise. To outsmart someone without saying a word is to control your instincts. It's to master the reaction you're dying to have. It's to see the conversation not as a war of opinions, but as a test of your inner alignment. If someone calls you weak, and you remain silent, they will speak again, louder this time. If you still don't react, they'll start doubting themselves. Then they'll start performing, for others. But you're untouched. You're not performing. You're not explaining. You're just present. And presence, real, grounded presence, is one of the rarest things in the world today. It scares people. It silences them. And it outsmarts them. Nietzsche once said, "All great things must first wear terrifying and monstrous masks, in order to inscribe themselves on the hearts of humanity." In this context, silence is that mask. Misunderstood, feared, but unforgettable. We've been taught that being understood is the goal, that making others agree with us is the victory. But Nietzsche would argue that the real victory is walking away from the need to be understood. It is the freedom to think independently, act deliberately, and remain unmoved by noise. The next time someone challenges you, observe them. Don't rush to speak. Don't explain your thoughts. Don't try to win them over. Let them talk. Let them reveal their hand. Let them burn their energy. You, in silence, will have the higher ground. Because silence isn't passive, it's surgical. It cuts deeper than argument ever could. Even biologically, the person who talks less in a group tends to be perceived as more powerful. It's not just philosophy, it's psychology. People associate mystery with strength, and silence is mystery in its purest form. You don't need to speak to prove your value. You need to become so certain of who you are that silence becomes your language. Words are often used to hide fear. But silence is truth. Silence is armor. Silence is strategy. In a world addicted to noise, be the absence that unsettles. In a room full of shouting voices, be the one who doesn't need to speak to be heard. And when someone tries to provoke you, smile, stay still, and remember. The person who doesn't speak already knows what the others are still trying to figure out. Because the strongest moves are the quietest. A predator doesn't roar before it strikes. It waits. It watches. It calculates. That is the mindset Nietzsche admired. Not the noisy desperation of the crowd, but the sovereign clarity of the one who doesn't need to announce his strength. There's a moment in every confrontation where the person who speaks the most is really just revealing their lack of control. They fumble for words, scramble for logic, raise their voice as if volume could make up for their fear. Nietzsche understood that truth doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to plead. It just is. So when you hold your silence, you're not surrendering. You're showing that you don't need the approval of others to validate your reality. You are stepping into a space Nietzsche described as beyond good and evil. A realm where you're no longer bound by the petty definitions others want to trap you in. You're not their enemy. You're not their ally. You are simply untouched. People may call you arrogant, cold, distant. That's expected. Because when you stop playing the social game, when you stop performing for comfort or approval, others will try to bring you back down. They want you to explain, to defend, to rejoin the performance. But don't. Stay outside it. That's where clarity lives. Nietzsche believed that every truth comes with a cost, and often that cost is isolation. Silence may mean you lose the argument. You may even look like the fool. But appearances are cheap currency. Silence trades in something far more valuable. Influence without effort. Power without posturing. You've probably seen this in real life. That one person in a meeting who doesn't interrupt, doesn't rush to agree. They just sit back, arms folded, watching everything. They say one sentence the whole time, but everyone remembers it. That's not by accident. That's not luck. That's strategy. That's Nietzschean. So if you want to outsmart others without saying a word, stop seeking validation. Stop reacting. Start observing. People will tell you silence is passive, but they only say that because they fear what it reveals about them. Let them talk. Let them accuse you of arrogance. Let them fill the space with their noise. That's their mind unraveling, not yours. When you walk away silently from someone trying to control you, you're not being weak. You're being free. When you don't respond to provocation, you're not letting them win. You're showing that they're not even in your arena. And when you resist the urge to defend yourself, you're not surrendering. You're rising above the game entirely. Nietzsche once said, "The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly." Silence is that flight, not upward, but inward. Because in the end, the person who speaks least often understands most. Not everyone will understand your silence, but that's exactly the point. Let them wonder. Let them speculate. Let them chase ghosts in your quiet. The more they talk, the more they expose themselves. And the more you remain still, the more you expose the truth. You don't need to out-talk anyone to outsmart them. You only need to know who you are, and say nothing about it.